How can we sensitize ourselves to experiencing many different temporalities that we live in?
What I call temporal phronesis is the ability to recognize and deploy a wide range of temporal shapes and figures, not just those that privilege progress, restitution, and happy endings. Those who believe that everything will be all right in the end with regard to climate change will, I fear, get their comeuppance.
There's one kind of music, the polyphonic music of the Western world, which has the magic power of realizing by its specific musical means the possibility of living simultaneously in two or more fluxes of events, meaning in two or more different timescales. We propose to look to the art of musical polyphony as a framework to understand how we can live through different time scales at the same time.
I think the thing, though, that got me thinking and questioning was this idea that Western music is a celebration of simultaneity. This kairos maybe would be this simultaneity of silence. Yeah, it just got me thinking about, maybe that is the definition of music, is this celebration of simultaneity, but rather Western music has focused on the pitch and harmonic ways of lining up.
Yeah. Of course, music in general, musicians in general like simultaneity, but in most traditions that I know, that simultaneity is something that's very hard to get and rare, and a moment for celebration in itself. So it's not something that you're entitled to all the time. Things go on.
The one is a resonant singing. I have the comparison image with a harp. I am a harp standing in the field in open air, and the wind is blowing, the harp is sounding, I am sounding, but it's not me who plays the harp. The wind is playing the harp, and what sounds is the wind out from me. Yeah. What you hear from me is the wind coming from me.
Resonance is about a different mode of being in the world or relating to the world. And the core element of this is listening and answering. I would actually say I believe that modern society is in a crisis of listening, having the capacity to really be in this mode, which is a kind of musical mode. And of course, one can say this is a kind of romantic notion, but I believe that this is the primordial way of being in the world, which we have to rediscover, and not just rediscover theoretically. I want to move beyond the cognitive frame.
Most of us give little thought to this geologic infrastructure, the legacy of a deep planetary past. As a society, we are therefore geologically illiterate, a condition that has led not only to unwitting environmental degradation, but has also cut us off from a sense of our shared heritage as offspring of the earth. Then makes it difficult for us to envision a geologic future. But geology also has a philosophical, almost spiritual side. It concerns existential questions about how the world came to be the way it is and how we should view our place in it, to looking at the form of the land and realizing you hear it humming a story about what shaped its contours, or to picking up a rock and listening as it sings sotto voce, an autobiographical aria.
This rock is under threat. We need to gather here to protect it. Our actions begin and they end at this place.
There's always been this idea that things are interwoven, for as long as people have been exploring the idea, not only of phenotype, but the idea of how our environment impinges upon us, this porosity both ways, the give and take. There's always been this idea of interconnectedness. It's an old concept that I think the longer we go on, the more we realize the truth in it.
And the work has gotten really experimental and interesting with the Sapota Nation, who are very interested not just in transmitting the story, but creating specific methods, borrowing from Amazonian forms of thinking, that is dream use and psychedelics, and also very curious about alternative academic forms of thought, both writing, but also other forms. How can you find a direction from this world called forest, and what kind of methods can we use to attune ourselves to those? And that's what I've been working on. And We've written the documents that I wrote with these communities. In fact, at TUACTA launched, I'm helping to launch the third one on education, in which the witness has become very important because the Zapatas are now participating in the witness project. And Pauline Olivero's score and some of the ideas there have become very important in understanding what we mean by teaching and leadership and learning. But we've written several documents, and the ways in which the documents were written in Zapata territory were much different because the spirits, cultivating an access to the spirit world, going into the forest, dreaming in the forest, drawing, as you can see here, became very important to those documents.
We want to really dive into this aspect of knowing birds, of knowing nature, and that this is a cultural practice, that you have to learn all the words, all the names of the birds. You have to learn how they sing, and this is not only about being amazed by their existence,
but really this parasitic relationship is something that is coming up a lot in the work. How we define what is a parasite and what is not a parasite. When does feeding become extraction? What is a symbiotic relationship and what is a destructive relationship? And I'm also really interested in creating a score which not only has instructions for doing, but which also has instructions for witnessing and listening.
Conceptually, it's really interesting to think about the relationship between parasitism and, let's say, colonization. Is the human species a parasite on the planet?
I think it comes out of, these land negotiations. I think it comes out of treaties, in fact.
Time immemorial is a similar kind of perpetual forgetting or something. We're never going to know the past. And on one hand, that kind of always bothered me. Like we just don't know far back enough. But also then at the same time, it was kind of a very humble thing to say, like the land is much older than all of us, and we don't know what happened back then. There's a time that we didn't exist.
How can we sensitize ourselves to experiencing many different temporalities that we live in?